How long does it take to set something like this up? Because there's a lot of variables.
It's a breeze. So much less than what you would experience moving from CRM to CRM.
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast, where we take a look at what is changing in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines to those that are driving those changes. I'm Donnie Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which has Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn. And with me this morning is the Florida man, Mr. Dan Gordon. And I don't call him a Jersey guy anymore. I have to call him a Florida man for tax purposes. Anyway, Dan, would you like to say good morning?
Sure.
Introduce yourself, our sponsors, and our very, very special guest and topic, which I'm super excited about.
Absolutely. So it's Dan Gordon from PCO Bookkeepers and M&A Specialists. We specialize in CFO services for the pest and lawn industry, as well as exit planning services. If you're interested, PCOBookkeepers.com. Now let's shout out to our sponsors. Coalmarch by WorkWave. If you are interested in marketing for the pest or lawn industry, and it's not just digital, I highly recommend that you go to coalmarch.com and see what they offer. If you're looking for industry-specific insurance for the pest industry, that would be pestsure.com. And they offer auto, general liability, workers' comp, and EPLI, and whatever else you need. So that is pestsure.com. And new for this year is Voice for Pest, which is pest management leading industry leader designing and implementing unparalleled voice solutions for PCOs of any size from coast to coast. Learn more at voiceforpest.com/podcast. And if you're interested in one of our peer groups, which are growing by leaps and bounds, please go back to episode 136 so you can educate yourself on that. And you can also visit us at pmpindustryinsider.com/peer groups. Now, today, we have a very special guest. I think I've known this guy for 20 years or more when we were both, young in the industry. It's Tsu. Ka is working with a company called Avoca, which we will talk about in just a few minutes. But he's worked in the pest industry for Service Pro for a long time, Service Titan Field Routes, leading the sales efforts. He was my go-to guy at Service Pro or Serve Suite for many years. He is involved with proprietary telematics systems, remote monitoring system, played a key role in product strategy and market expansion. And he's also, and this is really a big one, he's a dedicated MPMA volunteer. He volunteers on many of the committees that, that are so important to the industry, including the Business Innovations Committee, as well as others. Hey, Ka, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So recently you joined Avoca, and this is an AI company, and Donnie gets all excited about AI, and but this is not your Chat GPT or Gemini where you ask it questions. This is cool stuff, and I don't even know where to begin, but tell us about your background and how you got involved with this, and exactly what the technology is.
I was going to say, we're going to get into the technology, but go ahead. Yes, your background, Ka, please.
Yeah. So my background, like you said, I've been with Service Pro, Serve Suite for the last 18, 19 years or so. It was a great ride. I worked with the Deering family for a lot of years. I got to know pest control companies from all over the country, seen them grow from next to nothing to being, acquired by some of these PE companies, and I'm still friends with them today, right? But during my time at Serve Suite, I one of the things I really noticed was all this new technology adoption. So, when I started back in 2002, 2003, when I found this little job request in the local newspaper, there was little to no pest control companies that had taken on any technology whatsoever. I mean, you're talking Windows days back in the day, right? So during that time, I had the some of the toughest time just trying to convince people to go to the computers, right? And I get on these phones and people are like, what are you talking about? What do I need a computer for? I've been doing this business for 40 some years. I don't need any computers. I mean, fast forward to today, can you imagine, right? So within that time too, I was also able to experience transitioning the industry from Windows to what they called the web, which was mind blowing at the time, right? So I'd gotten a lot of pest control operators onto the a tower sitting in their office, right? But then I had to convince them, hey, let's go to the web. How do we do that, right? So that the obstacles that I've had to occur, were always a challenge, right? And then finally, once I've gotten everyone on the web, then I had to get everyone to their mobile device, their cell phones, right? So big challenges that have faced me throughout my career, and now I'm on to AI. So from my perspective, if for all those PCOs out there, if you're not jumping on AI, you're going to be left behind.
Most certainly are. Most certainly are. So let's get into it. So what exactly does Avoca AI do, and how would it benefit let's just say a typical pest or lawn company? Let's start there.
Yeah. So Avoca's been in the pest control or been in the AI industry for the past 5 years, right? They were founded by two founders, Apurva and Tyson. They met at MIT at the AI lab. So the leadership on this at Avoca is amazing, right? They've been dealing with AI for the last 10 years, and between the two of them, they've got over 20 years of experience, right? So before AI was even cool, they were in the midst of it, knee deep, right? So what they developed, once they've graduated and got out of school, was Avoca, right? Avoca is a company that's designing AI tools for the CSRs, right? All your customer service representatives, how to make them more efficient, make companies, sell more, and be able to save a lot of money on their bottom line, because that labor that they that they have tough time creating, especially in the CSR world, for after hours and overflow calls, has been a major challenge in the industry.
Mm-hmm. So specifically, okay, so it's CSR tools, but what specifically does it do?
Yeah, so there's two big things that Avoca is most known for, right? Answering after hours and overflow calls using a AI CSR agent, right?
Okay.
That CSR agent is able to answer the call at all hours during holidays. It doesn't matter. Being able to schedule a service, being able to take messages, and most amazingly, it's able to answer just about any question that you throw at it.
So, all right, there's a lot in there. So, okay, so basically, Avoca is a CSR, essentially.
Essentially, right? So right now we are creating all these tools, right? Whether it's answering calls after hours and overflows, whether it's coaching your CSRs, right? So being able to listen to your each of your calls, incoming and outgoing, and being able to answer those, grade those calls based on a customer rubric, being able to, produce outgoing calls to schedule your quarterly services. The possibilities with AI and the CSR realm of things is endless.
So let's get into that, because I've got lots of questions now. So the first one is, okay, so in order for that to do that, and it's got to be very familiar with my CSR. I mean, not my CSR, but my, my,
Service in your
right.
company.
My, basically, yeah, my, it's got to be very familiar with my software. It's got to be able to look at my schedule and interpret what's going on. Whose route does that go on? Does that make sense to fit here? Blah, blah, blah. I could keep
Yep.
going. Do you have integrations in with,
Yes, yes, we
okay.
are already starting to integrate with the top software companies in the industry, for sure. So keep in mind, my background is in that CRM software realm of things. So
So
we
name
are.
drop. What do you got? What's,
Um, so currently we are integrating. We've already integrated with field routes,
okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
I'm in the next phase is going to be hitting field works, Dream software, and hopefully soon we'll hit a pest pack if once we can get some agreements on that side of things.
Gotcha.
So do me a favor Donnie, before you go on, so you played something for us so that people can get an understanding of what we're talking about. We have a little snippet, and I would love for you to play it. Um,
Sure. So this is one of our newest things is being able to use AI as an outgoing call service, right? Outgoing being we can do outgoing for your customers after the service has been completed for NPS scores. Outgoing can include scheduling quarterly calls or monthlies or termite inspections, whatever you can imagine. We can create our AI to make those calls. Let me go ahead and play one of these for you.
Okay.
Hi, Ka. This is Claire with Avoca. Hope you're doing well. I'm giving you a quick call to schedule your upcoming quarterly pest control service. I'd love to get you on the schedule. Do you have a preferred day or time that works best for you?
Yeah, I'm pretty open. What's available?
Oh, great. We've got some openings on April 3rd and 4th. Would either of those days work for you?
Yeah, let's try the 4th.
Perfect. Would you prefer morning or afternoon on the 4th?
Afternoon would be great.
All right, so we'll book you for the afternoon on April 4th. Our technician will arrive during that window and take care of everything as usual. Is there anything else you'd like us to address while we're out there?
Yeah, on the back patio next to the light, I've got a lot of spider webs and a lot of dead bugs.
Got it. We'll make sure to take care of the spider webs and dead bugs on the back patio near the light. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Perfect. You're all set. If anything comes up or you need to reschedule, just give us a call. Thanks, Ka. We'll see you on April 4th. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I got questions.
Her name is Sarah, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that bot was named. We can name the bot anything you want.
Can you give the bot an accent?
We can. It
Okay, because
also
that's
speaks
really
to you.
important. That's
Yeah.
really important, right? Because if that, listen, in my market area, if someone called like that, immediately they'd be like, okay, no, you got to have some sort of southern slang, at least a bit. And if you're up in Dan's
Throw a
country,
Boston accent.
yeah. I mean, so there's that. The other thing I noticed is I'm assuming in the background it's looking at the schedule, it's figuring out where it's going to, it's figuring out where it's going to fit. And then I'm assuming also when you mentioned yes, I have some concerns, that's probably passing through to the notes. I'm assuming that hopefully that's what's
Exactly.
happening. How long does it take to set something like this up? Because there's a lot of variables that happen in here. I mean, is this, I'm assuming, and then the other, hang on, let me let you answer that one first, because I've got probably like another stream of 6 or 7 questions behind that. So keep going.
Yeah.
So let's start there.
So as far as setting up goes, it's a breeze, right? So much less than what you would experience moving from CRM to CRM, right? I think the industry has that horror, experiences moving from one CRM to another. When it comes to onboarding with AI, it's a breeze, right? the first call, all it's going to take about 30 to 45 minutes. They're going to dig deep into, the intricacies of your business, what service you do, wildlife, pest control, termite work, if there's any cost to it, what type of voice you want. I mean, you can customize your voice, Donnie, if you want your voice as the caller as well.
Wow.
And then at the same time, if we also can do multiple languages, right? So I've got a few customers using the Spanish capabilities, right? And I've got another customer in the Canadian area looking at the Canadian French, right? There's a difference, which I never knew. But yeah, the language portion is what's really amazed me most recently.
Right. Right. And then as far as, okay, so you have this integration. How does the agent decide, this is the technician that it makes the most sense? There's rules here that need, I mean, because I can think about the
Are
realities.
they actually scheduling the appointment or giving it over like a list? Okay, here's a bunch of calls that I dealt with, and you put them into field routes or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, good question. So ideally, for the most part, what makes pest control rather unique, right, is that on any given day by like noon, the schedules are already booked for the next day, right? They're already scheduled. So what happens is if the AI bot was to look at those schedules in real time, it would show that those schedules are booked, right? But that's not generally the answer most pest control companies want, because these are answering calls at night or rollovers, right? These are new potential sales, right? So they want to be able to pick up those new sales. So the AI would look at, say, hey, what services are not confirmed, right? And those are like the fill-in services, right? They're not really, hey, I've got keys to the house, or they're a restaurant that I can go before a certain time as long as I get in there. They're really flexible type services. So what happens is that the AI will go ahead and lock the customer down and stop them from calling anyone else, right? At the end of the day, what's happening these days is customers are calling answering machines, and they'll just call someone else until they get a voice. So now the AI is going to lock them down, give them a date and schedule, and then the CSR the next morning will then take those new services and be able to fit them into those schedules, right? Based on pulling, non-confirmed or non-priority customers out of it.
So basically, it's taking the order, but it's not actually locking it on the schedule. Is that
correct?
Yeah,
correct.
Gotcha.
So if during the day, so let's say it's not for overflow, or maybe it's overflow during the day during busy season, it's also just creating a list of, here's a bunch of stuff I sold, go schedule it.
Exactly. Here are opportunities that you would never have gotten, right? Because your CSR, let's say a pest control operator has 5 CSRs answering the call. So during the day, that means a 6th call, a 7th call, or 10th call happened all at once for whatever reason. The AI was able to answer all those calls and be able to book them at a roughly about a 95% rate, 95% rate.
And
What if,
so
I was
are
gonna
they able to deal simultaneously? Because what happens during the season. You've got 4 CSRs and 10 calls. They can handle all 6 of them simultaneously.
As hundreds.
Wow.
No problem.
And what if, like, listen, and we may have been accused of this sometimes on this very podcast before I even ask this question, but what if you call in and the AI picks up the call and I just start feeding it gibberish, right? Like it says, when do you want to schedule? And I'm like, I don't know, in 2028. Or like, what if like I start saying things or like I start sending it down a path that it's like, it has no idea what the hell I'm talking about. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, is there a function in the AI itself where it's like, hey, you know what? I need to pass you on to a supervisor. Like, how are those situations handled?
Yeah. Good question. So what makes Avoca unique to the market is what we have is human in the loop, right? The AI can understand those customer sentiments, right? Frustrations or whatnot, right? Or if the customer just asks for a human, they can immediately get forwarded to a Avoca call center agent, right? A human in our Avoca call center.
But hold on. Do we not know that it's, I mean, I don't think that I would guess that it's AI just based on that interaction, or do they identify themselves as an AI agent?
So generally, what the customers immediately identify on the initial call, right? Hey, I'm a virtual agent. I'm here to help. I
Okay.
can take messages, book services, and answer any questions that you might have, right? So for most customers may not even hear that, right? I've got recordings where you know, customers would sit on the phone for like 2 or 3 minutes before they realize that it's an AI, right?
Hmm.
And then at that point, they may get forwarded to our Avoca call center. So
Gotcha.
it's amazing that how so many customers just don't know what they're talking to, or they might immediately identify it that it's an AI, but that's okay too, right? Now that I've started to begin to talk to it, I've given my name, my problem, and I might have hung up. Well, now I have your caller ID, I've got your name, and I've got your problem, so I can call you back immediately and potentially schedule or answer that problem that you might have.
Is there a texting component to this as well, or is it mainly voice? Is it mainly calls that this software is handling? And I'm generally
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah. So good question. That's one of our next phases is to be able to keep capable of being texting our customers, right?
Gotcha.
We're actually in beta already,
Mhm.
and keep in mind we've got close to 400 and some customers, mainly on the HVAC, plumbing, and electric side, and a lot of these capabilities are being tested on that side before it's being brought over to the pest control side.
And then as far as like speed, that always seems to be an issue. I feel like in AI voice is the like right now our conversation, the speed at which the conversation is progressing is pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it, you know, are there fillers that you could put in, like for example, on that call that we just listened to, you said, I think, yeah, Tuesday I'm pretty open, and there was a delay of maybe
There were
2 to
delays
3.
on each one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, let me take a look, or something that just like that flags to the consumer, I'm working, not I didn't hear you, or
Right.
I'm not processing, or whatever, right? That interaction, like for me, it was a bit of delay, and it would, like, if I was on the other end, I'd be like, what the hell is this person, like, not very smart, or like what's going on here, like, I don't know. I'm just curious, like as far as speed, and then this ability to kind of get the customer so that they know what's going on.
Yeah. So from we do definitely recognize those delays, and those are there's newer bots that are constantly being developed. We've actually got a newer one for our incoming call, right? Which I would love to play with you for you sometime, but those delays are getting smaller and smaller, right? There's just a lot going on in the background.
Oh yeah,
But
there's
could
no
you
doubt.
have the bot just say, hold on while I check that?
Yeah.
Or that doesn't work?
Yeah, or we have like you can hear a little noise in the background, like as a real actual call center, which I think is pretty funny. Sometimes you
Oh,
can.
I'd be in there. It drive me crazy. There's like you could hear like people typing or something like that, and it was the
Or
same thing
canned
every
laughter
time.
on a
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. Um, but so I mean, is this practical for a pest control? I mean, it sounds like right now, like if you were to say, hey, this is our bread and butter, this is a very good spot to start. Because I would tell you, me jumping into this right out the gate, and I don't know, I'm a big risk taker, but I would want to like take this in phases. Is this something like, hey, you should start with after hours first, or you should start with overflow first? Like, can you just kind of talk us through how someone would implement something like this?
test it
Yeah,
to so that
yeah,
they're satisfied.
Yeah.
sure, for sure. So we talked about the implementation phase, right? We about 30-45 minutes of developing or building your bot, getting that information to build that bot, right? So
Mhm.
after that initial call, you'll have a phone number that you can give to all your friends. You call as many times as you want, right? And you test it out until you're satisfied with all its answers, right? You go through every single scenario that you possibly could think of, and of course, once you go live, you're always going to find some other scenarios. Oh, you forgot to give us a zip code, for example, that you actually service. That the bot said answered a call and says you didn't service, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then then it's up to you to say, you control it, right? So if you're using, Voice for Pest, one of our sponsors today, which we are also integrated with, you have control on your end to say, hey, during hours, I want it to answer after, 30 seconds, right? 30 seconds of ringing. I want the bot to answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you could also say, after hours at 5 o'clock, I want to answer on the first ring. Because what we found is the faster you get to that call, the more likely that you're going to be able to book that call into a service, right? So even the
Right.
slightest delay on answering that call can mean a drastic decrease on the possibility of booking.
And I got more questions. So,
I figured.
well, okay. So the next question I have is, let's just say, um, I've got the bot, and someone calls in, and the call's coming in, everything's fine and good there. At what point does I'm going to circle back to what we were talking about before. Like, well, there's integrations, but if it's not actually putting it on the schedule and it's just peeking at the schedule, do you really have to have the integration? I guess is my point. Like, do you have customers who don't have any integration at all? They're just
Yep.
like, hey, we're going to take the service and we'll figure it out. I mean, like, is
Yep.
that a possibility? Because I mean, listen, there's no doubt about it. We've got a lot of listeners that are on PestPack, right? And they may be on a software that's not even listed, that you said that you don't integrate with. Can
Sure.
they still leverage this technology?
Absolutely. When I first joined Avoca, 3 months ago, I didn't have any integration, right? Avoca was deeply integrated with Service Titan, but not integrated with any systems in the pest control world of
Mhm.
things, right? So, the pest control companies that are brought on board, they look at it as these are calls that they would never have gotten if it wasn't for the AI, right? They are realizing that there are a lot of customers that are happy to leave voicemails, and in those voicemails it becomes very vague, right? Of
Mhm.
what their situation is or who they are. And then there's also calls that they didn't even realize that they were missing because they just hang up, and their answering machine never even acknowledged that there was a call there, right? So they're once they've implemented the bot, especially in after hours, they're seeing tremendous increase in calls, and then those calls were always coming. They just never knew about it.
And
So
because you're integrated with Voice for Pest, does that make you integrated with In other words, maybe you can't look at the scheduler, but you can definitely put the call in the notes.
Yes, potentially. Yes.
Okay.
I'm working with their engineering team to possibly make that happen. Right. It's some more conversations, and also time and energy on the engineering side, which is the most valuable thing
right.
in a technology company.
Right.
So just circling back here, and I know so you would say to start with after hours first, and then overflow, or what? Again, going back to the implementation phase, even if you didn't have the integration, kind of walk me through like the sweet spot to start at first, and then obviously all the way up to a full CSR bot.
Yeah, so I think if you're kind of skittish about it, I mean, definitely look at answering those after hour calls, because at that point you don't have any CSRs answering those calls. If you got it can assess basically those emergencies that you have at nighttime, right? And be able to potentially forward those calls directly to someone, or be able to text message a call based on those emergencies as well, right? And in my mind, in pest, there's two types of emergency, right? The most severe would be like, hey, you just were out here, yesterday, and my kid's sick, right? That's a pretty severe emergency, and you may want to get directly that call forwarded to the ownership or high management, right? And then there's other type of emergencies that are emergencies of the customers, but maybe not so much emergencies to the pest control operators. Like, hey, you know what? A mouse just ran across my room. I need someone out here immediately, right? They are freaking out, but at the same time, you know, a text message or a call can be immediately forwarded to that person or that technician on call, and then that technician can assess whether, you know, if they can get out there and how fast they can get out there.
All right. I'm going to ask the question I know almost all of our listeners are wondering right now, which is, let's talk money. We all, and listen, if you can't, like, okay, this is very, very, like, I'm fine. I will certainly give you a pass, but I am certainly wondering that, like, how's this priced? What is it? You know, like, what is it? I mean, I'm
Cheaper
really,
than hiring a CSR.
well, and that's, you know, I really am. I'm curious to know, like, how do you even approach pricing this thing? And, you know, what does that look like? And I mean, can you just talk through how something like this, I mean, you don't have to get into specifics, right? And I realize that,
The mechanics
yeah,
is
but yeah, I mean, I
a
would like to
minute
know,
or
like, what do you expect? Is this dirt cheap technology, or is this like, wait, you know, this is going to be a pretty good investment for us? Like, can you just walk me through that?
Yeah. So, we've got a lot of different plans, right? All our plans are based on the minutes, right? Our starting package starts at $800, and you're looking at 1,000 minutes, right?
Okay.
And that's roughly about 300 calls. So depending on an average sized pest control company, we can assess how many calls you guys are getting, between rollovers and after hours, and then we can assess whether you need to go higher or not. But generally,
Gotcha.
most companies do just fine with 1,000 minutes.
Gotcha. And then what are some, and we're getting close to the end here, which I hate. We need to get you back on because I'm really interested. But talk
when
me
he heard
through.
that it was 800, but
Yeah. Well, hang on, but I want to
but
know,
how
like,
many, Donnie, how many minutes, like, so you have CSRs that do other things, right? But how
yeah,
many
well,
minutes,
you know, if you're looking at after hours, I mean, that's
that's
fine.
brilliant.
Yeah, it's great. I
But
mean,
during
it's,
the day, how many minutes does a CSR end up on the phone per?
well, you know what? Listen, AI is nowhere near like humans, right? I've got some that want to talk about shopping, and I mean, like, you know, and I'm not being critical of my CSRs. Not, I mean, I love them; they're fantastic.
They're building rapport.
But they're building rapport, right? It's a different dynamic, and I don't know that I want to supplant them, but I like the idea of there being after hours and overflow, right? Hey, look, I'm an overflow agent, and here's some things I can do for you. If this doesn't work for you, I'm happy to pass you on, or I can just solve your problem right now and leave it on the customer side. I mean, that I'm good with. Same thing for after hours. I'm totally good with that. But you know, there's still that. Listen, I've said it before, and I will die on this hill, which is, you know, we are a relationship business, you know, and I mean, and it always will be. Now, normally that relationship is technician to customer, but it also works in the office too. It's not like there's no relationship, you know, no relationship there, because there is. But getting back to challenges, like, what are the challenges of implementing a technology like this that you have seen? I mean, like, you know, is it
Sure.
the folks in the office have issues with it? Like, how are customers accepting it? Like, do they accept it? And, you know, are there any success stories that you can point to where people put this in either after hours or overflow, and it made a big difference to them? I really am interested in, like, hearing, like, how well this is being, you know, accepted, you know, because ultimately if people don't buy into it, it's not going to work.
Yeah. So out of all the customers I've brought on board, particularly those in pest control, everyone has loved it, right? Those have gone live, right? I've got one customer in the Carolinas. She told me a story like, hey, you know, we went ahead with you, but to be honest with you, my CSR was kind of against it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once we went live, she's like, she just did a 360 turn, right? And said, hey, oh my God, this is great. I love it. And, you know, the company's like, hey, you know, my bot's even got a Southern twang to it. And I'm like, okay, yeah. If you say so. I think, I mean, it's a standard bot, but, you know, we depends on what people are hearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got one customer in the Northeast, right, that just went live, and he's super analytical. This guy knew his numbers. He knew exactly how many calls he was getting. He knew his, his booking rates and everything, right? He says that on the first week that he started, Avoca, he could equate about $5,000 in revenue that he would never have gotten due to implementing Avoca. And he was looking at, by the time it's all said and done, by the month, he was looking at roughly about $15,000 in profit or additional sales that he would never have received. So implementation, it's amazing. Some of the clients that I talk to, and I mean, it makes me so happy, right?
Yeah.
Is that they're embracing this technology, and then at the same time, they're able to grow their business even more.
All right. Unfortunately, we have to end this episode. We are absolutely going to have you back. I have lots and lots of more questions, and certainly I'm going to talk to you after the podcast. But if our listeners want to listen or learn more, we're going to put up your contact info on our on our show notes page. But how would folks learn more about this product and how they would reach out to you? Can you just real quick, how to reach out to you, how to get information on the product? And again, we'll put this stuff on the show notes page as well.
Yeah, they can reach out to me directly. My direct number is 614-301-5503. If they want to check out our website, it's avoca.ai. That's AVOCA.ai.
Perfect. And for all of our listeners, in case you're wondering, we've done this entire episode in AI. Dan's not actually here, neither am I, and neither is Kai. We just no, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
Well, the main reason we do these podcasts is so that Donnie can find different things to improve his business. And
absolutely. Listen, I am
the fact that people listen, that's secondary.
Yeah, no. I mean, it is my world. We all just live in it. Anyway, so having said that, Kai, thank you so much for coming on board. This has been, just for me, an eye-opening episode. It's great to see. Listen, when I first got in this industry, my background is computer science. I was floored at how far behind we were as an industry. I don't know that we've made a ton of gains as compared to other industries, but we are gaining, and so it's great to see the technology coming on board, in our industry and just ways that we can leverage it. I think it's going to be an amazing, for folks to implement it. And I agree with what you started this show with, which is if you're not embracing, you're going to just get left behind. And certainly it's just, this is like the cell phone, right? AI is a transformative technology. We've talked about that on other episodes. And so with that, we're all going to sign off. Thanks again, Kai. Just a reminder, all the resources and topics that we talked about today, we're going to have it up on the podcast website, pmpindustryinsider.com. Just take a look under show notes. And we appreciate any ratings and reviews that you can give us. And complaints always goes to Dan. And with that, we'll sign off. We'll see you all next time. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.